You can make yourself better by realigning your chakras, which apparently one of them is a spinning wheel in your groin, and there is no such spinning wheel in your groin, just in case that needed clarifying.
Hello and welcome to Trolling with Logic, broadcasting from behind the veil of the entangled mind-body hierarchy. We are, by the grace of Ramtha the Enlightened, transcending the rigid and narrow framework of physical categories, and by the mere act of mental reflection, we send the positive energies of the holistic universe percolating through the quantum soup to congeal in your eardrums. As our voices collapse the wave function of the universal quantum eye, please sit back, align your chakras to the frequency of the quantum vibrations, and enjoy the show.
Wizard.
That was some spectacular bullshit. I liked it.
Yeah, that's so deep and profound. It must mean something, man.
It made my brain hurt, so I must be smart.
Yeah, what you just heard was a bunch of nonsense. But it's the kind of thing that you'll hear from a lot of self-described gurus of the New Age movement, like our favorite New Age YouTuber Jordan, aka Spirit Science, and then also more mainstream figures out there like Deepak Chopra, David Avocado Wolf. People who hear this stuff pretend to themselves like it makes sense. They must understand on some level that it doesn't make any sense, but they pretend like it does.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to pick up on what you said there, because in preparing for this topic, I've noted that there's kind of really four kind of main kind of gurus out there. And like number one was Deepak Chopra, and then David Avocado Wolf. The third would be Jordan. And the fourth, which is a very strange and bizarre person indeed, compared to the other three, which is saying a lot. But, you know, I've mentioned her to the rest of the team, and that's Teal Swan. She's a fairly newcomer, but there's something very strange about. We'll probably talk about her later, but I think probably where I think we should start is just what actually is New Age. I mean, I don't know, you guys, if you've researched this, what's your kind of definition of what New Age actually is?
Well, New Age is, as I understand it, an umbrella term. It means a lot of things, and a lot of different philosophies and viewpoints and worldviews can fall under the general broad category of New Age. But at its most basic, it's a return to ancient worldviews and branded as New Age, even though there's nothing really new about it. It's an appeal to ancient wisdom and Eastern mysticism, the worldviews and philosophies that held sway before Western science and more of the Western religions emerged.
Yeah, that makes sense. Also, it's trying to use a lot of new language to describe old things. It's trying to use all sorts of scientific language that people are convinced by in this day and age, which mean real things, but to promote some completely non-real ideas, such as chakras or quantum tunneling into a different state of mind and all that kind of stuff. If you think hard enough and you want something hard enough, the universe will give it to you through your higher conscious mind and that kind of stuff.
You'll notice in the intro I read out, there are a lot of words in there that have very specific and precise meanings in science. But these are the words that New Agers will use, lend themselves an air of credibility. Their audience doesn't understand what they mean at all. Words like vibrations, frequency.
Energy. Energy's a big one for them. They use energy for absolutely any and every. It's like their kind of go-to term.
And anything and everything quantum. Quantum X. Just put quantum and some other word. That seems to be a pretty good trick of theirs.
Yeah, one thing they like to do as well is they try and bamboozle people by saying as many different things as possible that they know people aren't going to understand. And because the people don't understand it, they believe that it must mean something, but they just don't have the feeling. So they don't have the understanding of what it means. So what they'll try and do, these so-called gurus, is they'll bamboozle people into thinking that they're smarter than them and then they kind of submit their mind to this individual and their money as well most of the time. And through that, that person then gains notoriety because people think, oh, this person's so clever because he uses all these massive words. He must have a clue about something that I don't understand.
The people that New Age gurus reach out to, on some level, they know that what the guru is saying isn't making any sense to them. But just like with any other religion, with an authority figure, they tell themselves that what they're being told, the person telling them understands it, even if they don't.
Yeah, exactly. I've got a friend who's very, very much into this sort of thing, and he respects people who have titles. He respects people who speak with authority. And one of these people is Dr. Joe Dispenza, who's very much along the lines of Deepak Chopra. He's called himself doctor, of course, because that initially, straight away, that makes him sound like an authority figure in some way, shape or form. I think he was originally a chiropractor, and then he kind of moved on to other things, and now he's a scientist and this, that, and the other, and he's an expert. And his motto is change from the inside out. And if you go to his website, drjoedispenza.com, you'll be able to see all sorts of very, very similar things. He's actually updated it recently. He used to have t-shirts selling on his front page, but now he's kind of gone a little bit more at market and he's got pictures of himself instead. But that's a good one to have a look at if you want to have an idea about one of these kind of woo doctors.
One thing that does run very common in the New Age movement is being very anti-mainstream medicine. That is really a very core belief that I think a lot of them hold.
Yeah, it seems to be, cancer drugs are giving you cancer, and you can make yourself better by realigning your chakras, which apparently one of them is a spinning wheel in your groin, and there is no such spinning wheel in your groin, just in case that needed clarifying.
That's another interesting thing, is some of their claims are so vague that there's no way you can make it testable or falsifiable, but then they say other things that are easily confirmable or falsifiable, like there are spinning wheels inside your chest.
Or Jews are from space.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap with, like you said, alternative medicine, and also with things like UFO abduction. You take any kind of fringe belief system, and there is some way to fit it into a New Age philosophy.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like, I gave the example, like when I went to that breast cancer conference, it was for breast cancer survivors, and they just have that conference. And I was really amazed at the amount of New Age stuff that got in there. And it's like I said, and it is quite insidious at times how they operate.
Yeah, it's like really any alternative medicine. They really, the most insidious them go for the people who are desperate, such as cancer victims.
Well, there's that, and I also find with the New Age, they're very I don't like wedge or gateway about how they do things. It usually starts off with, you see some inspirational quotes, you read it, and then I just find people get more and more into it. And it always seems to be that same progression.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, here's a quote from Dr. Joe Dispenza's website, which you'll feel very familiar with in a lot of ways, just from the other people who are involved in this particular field. And I'll read this verbatim. The quantum field responds not to what we want, it responds to who we are being.
Yeah, there's nothing I can add to that. It just
exactly.
Processing.
It's like, because our consciousness notices everything, it observes and pays attention to us. It is aware of our thoughts, our dreams, our behaviors, and our desires. It observes everything into physical form. Now, what does that actually mean? What does that mean? It doesn't mean actually anything at all. It's basically saying you look around, you want stuff, and it happens.
Joe Dispenza was one of the scientists, quote-unquote scientists, who was involved in What the Bleep Do We Know?, the New Age documentary that made a huge impact on, at least here in America, and it's still a best-selling film with a bunch of spin-off products and sequels and what have you. Its core message is the same as what you'd find in The Secret by Rhonda Byrne, where your thoughts and your desires create the reality around you, and there is no objective universe impinging on you. You create the universe, and matter is just precipitated thought. That's the phrase used by John Hagelin in The Secret.
Yeah, solipsism, basically, isn't it?
But it's a peculiar form of solipsism. It's like a weird collective solipsism. New Agers who believe in this stuff, they'll be happy to say that you exist and I exist and there are other minds besides my own. But it's a weird paradox or contradiction where they kind of implicitly will grant you your existence. Thank you very much. But they'll say something like the universe is like in aggregate. It's an aggregate of everybody else's personal experience. And it's kind of a conglomeration of everybody's thoughts.
Yeah, it's the Matrix, basically. My friend actually said to me at one point, he goes, Jen, I don't even know what's real anymore. And he was genuinely sort of that far down the rabbit hole that he didn't know. He thought we were genuinely in a matrix. He didn't know what was real and what wasn't.
Like what I said earlier, that there are 4 kind of main gurus in this area. I think might be handy just to go through each one and kind of our thoughts. And I think we'll go with who, I think is the granddaddy of the modern New Age. We've all heard of him, Deepak Chopra. And he's actually incredibly famous. He's got the ears of quite a lot of influential people. And I don't know I think we're all very familiar. He's kind of pioneered this way of speaking, what sounds very profound, but it's just gobbledygook at the end of the day.
He speaks so much gobbledygook that people can't actually tell the difference between a genuine Deepak Chopra quote and a quote made of random scientific and other philosophical terms just thrown in together.
Yeah, well, there's the generator online as well, isn't there, which comes out with things that could very well be Deepak Chopra, just from, like you said, just random shit thrown together.
Yeah,
I'm on the random Deepak Chopra phrase generator now. And
awesome! Give us some wisdom.
Awareness is inextricably connected to your own brains.
Well, that actually makes sense.
But he's not wrong.
But it's like we say, he really is the granddaddy of the whole the modern New Age movement. Anyway, he has got such an empire. He releases about 2 or 3 books a year. I mean, he's almost in a weird way. He's kind of like how Ray Comfort is in the kind of creationist movement. This guy is the same in the New Age movement, and plus, like I say, he's got the ear of kind of people like Oprah Winfrey, and I think he's friendly with a lot of politicians as well.
Yeah, that's a good point about being the Ray Comfort of the New Age movement. He has a far larger reach than Ray Comfort, who's kind of been relegated to the fringe. But strangely enough, Deepak Chopra is not fringe at all. He's very mainstream in the eyes of a lot of people.
Well, that's where it gets kind of a wee. But the one thing I will say for Deepak Chopra is, unlike probably the other folk we go on to, he does seem to be able to tolerate the criticism. I mean, he might not be able to respond to it anyway, but this is another very common thing with a lot of New Agers, is they do not like criticism in any way whatsoever.
Well, I would say Deepak Chopra falls into that category. I don't think he likes dissenting opinion either. That's just what I'm seeing. Are you familiar with the weird bullshit challenge that he set to, it was like $1 million challenge. He wanted it to be like a counter to James Randi's $1 million challenge.
I can't remember. Was it the reality challenge or something? I can't remember the exact name.
What he wanted to challenge skeptical scientists to do was basically prove that there is no hard problem of consciousness. So basically prove that consciousness is grounded in physical processes from the bottom up in the physical brain, and solve the hard problem of consciousness, which both scientists and philosophers have been struggling with for at least the last 300 years.
Yeah, it is ringing a bell on that. But yeah, we'll also carry on just talking about Deepak in general, because the other thing about him is why New Agers like him is he's also from Indian descent. I think he's actually born in India, isn't he? Well, I'm just going by his accent, so sorry if that sounds a bit dodgy, but yeah, I think he is. And that's the other big thing you will see from New Agers, is what I call the appeal to the East. Everything Eastern is just fantastic to them.
Yeah, it's analogous to the way the alt-med practitioners say that natural is always good. In the same way, with New Agers, Eastern is always good. It's one of those buzzwords that resonates with their audience's emotion. It's an emotional appeal. Eastern equals good, Western equals bad.
Yeah, that's definitely the appeal to the ancients. That's probably, like I say, the next person we'll speak about. Probably one of the next few people. He's definitely into his appeal to the ancients. But yeah, it is a noticeable thing. A lot of them do appeal to ancient, because that's the always thing, that the ancients just knew so much more than us, and if we can get back to that, we'll just be great.
And of course, that's something people believe because it's not something they can review. But the New Agers will go, well, there's so many things that we don't understand about the past. For example, how they built some of their structures, and that leads you down the entire sort of ancient aliens route as well. So you find a lot of people who are into Deepak Chopra, who are into all the New Age stuff, are also into this ancient alien stuff. The idea that, for example, the human race was a clone race developed by aliens to harvest gold from Africa, which is something that Michael Tellinger is very up on, and he's one of these sorts of people as well. And then you get into all the other sort of stuff like von Daniken stuff, etc. They're all very much tied in together, and that kind of not understanding what people are talking about ties into all these other mystical and historically vague subjects.
Okay, I think we'll go on to the next guy. He's a bit of a different character to Deepak, and we've all heard of him, David Wolf, and he's really, like, they're all kind of different in how they figured out their niche. And Dave Wolf is because he's exploited Facebook to the max, because we all have friends on Facebook that share David Wolf memes.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah.
And a lot, if you look through it, the vast majority of David Wolf stuff is pretty harmless, and it's just all this, and it is actually stuff you would broadly agree with. But then he puts in something that's so out there, just kind of like a curveball now and again.
Yeah, it's I don't know if it's a conscious strategy on his part and the part of others similar to him to just kind of blanket their social media space with really uncontroversial, inspirational quote type stuff that anybody would look at and say, oh, whatever, not off the grid, not too fringy, but then sprinkle in a few really crazy stuff. Like, what was his claim about chocolate being some kind of
it's an octave of sunlight. Yeah.
What is an octave of the sun?
Well, an octave is musical, isn't it? So I was always wondering what the hell he was talking about with that.
It's like frequency, isn't it?
Yeah.
Octave is basically like you've got the note A, and then you've got the note A at a higher pitch, the next highest pitch on the scale, and that's an octave up. Yeah, you kind of figured how that relates to chocolate. I don't know.
Speaking of that, actually, I'm just on David's Facebook page, and on one of his posts, somebody had posted Mortimer's video, The Ultimate Stupid Count.
And what's the reaction?
No reaction.
That was a very funny video.
And probably the other thing, because this will kind of tie into a show we're doing very soon, he's very big on the cannabis will fix everything for us route.
There's a lot of people are hoping that'll be the case with America at the moment.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. But also, I've noticed there's some things he shares which are actually really offensive. There was one, like it was two kind of elderly women, and one of them looked quite fit, and the other one was quite haggard and all that. And he was saying, oh, this is what modern life does to you. But a lot of people point out, well, you don't know anything about the lives these two women have had. Well, she could have had to work really hard all her life just to get by, and the other one could have lived in complete and utter luxury. I said, because he does share some things which when you actually look at them, you said, no, that's a bit not okay. Okay, shall we move on then? Oh yeah, number 3 on the New Age guru list that I drew up for this is our good pal Jordan. Again,
yes.
He's very different to the other ones because, like I said, it's the Spirit Science channel, which you're probably all familiar with on here. He does these, like, really, they're very well done animations, and it's like Mortimer's actually pointed this out, that he thinks that's how his audience is built because it looks nice, it's very easy on the eye, and the voice he does and everything, it's very easy on the senses.
Yeah, he's a very good video producer and artist and graphic designer, and that's why his videos are making such a big impact on YouTube among the New Age community, and even drawing in converts to New Age thought.
Yeah, one thing I can't stand about Jordan is when he says, well, we don't know about things that we really do know about. I find that incredibly frustrating.
Oh, me too. Yeah, that's a big one.
But like how we were talking earlier about their reaction to criticism, Jordan is one of the worst in this regard. Him and his followers are notorious. They just cannot take any criticism whatsoever. Even the most mildest, most gentle, polite criticism, and it's always a thing, if you criticize them, then they just shut you down as being negative straight away.
Oh yeah, it's like the whole Scientology thing as well, isn't it? This whole negative people, anyone who gives negative energy, that is against you, and you've got to talk them down. Yeah.
Didn't Jordan make a cartoon character of Marty in one of his videos?
Yeah, basically, it was his response, and when Mortimer saw it, I think Mortimer just creased himself laughing. It's just hilarious, because that's the defense you'll hear from every spirit science fan is, Jordan's not telling you to believe or not believe this. He's just putting ideas out there. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, then people like Cool Hard Logic will pull clips out of his videos showing that that's not the case, where Jordan is very clearly saying, you should believe this.
It's also not, I mean, when you're just giving an opinion that is completely entirely unresearched, and you're just saying, oh, well, this could be true, that could be true, when it necessarily isn't, if you did the slightest bit of research, you just go to show how flimsy each and every single one of his videos is in terms of the investigation that he does in the background. It's like he goes to like a children's book, a children's biology book or a children's science book. He reads a few of the pictures and reads the subtitles underneath the pictures and doesn't go any further into the science at all. And then he just makes up his own ideas about what's going on in the world.
And his shallowness in looking into the things he researches and talks about is maybe what leads him to say, oh, scientists don't know this and scientists don't know that. He's projecting his own ignorance onto scientists.
Precisely.
Julie, I think you were going to come in with something there, but you got interrupted. But yeah, like all that stuff about Jordan as well, and there's also one of his most notorious episodes. Have you actually watched his other channel?
There's a second channel?
He has another channel? This is the first time hearing about it.
It's not
Oh
Patchman's.
dear God, no.
It's not Patchman stuff. It's like him in person, and it's kind of him doing road trips where he meets other New Agers. And on the whole, it's fairly innocuous stuff until there was one video, and I'll briefly set it up with you. He went to a shop, he bought a full surgeon's outfit, he took a video camera with him, and he walked into a hospital, and he walked in on someone's surgery and filmed it without any permissions, without sterilizing himself, and he was doing this to show the failures of modern medicine.
Oh my God.
What?
Yeah, and it's up online, and he's tried to double down and back away, saying, oh, well, it was a friend of mine that was having the surgery, and, well, they wouldn't have minded me filming it, but... Yeah,
but he put someone's life at risk by doing that, potentially.
Yes, and it's actually really good because that's the only video where his own followers have called him out on it.
Infection, not something to be fucked around with in hospitals.
And plus, it's against the law and a severe violation of medical ethics he just did there. He impersonated a surgeon. He was just so relaxed about it. He just walked in and the surgeons kind of look at him and then look away. And he just, it's that thing where sometimes if, the best thieves are the ones that'll just walk into a shop and say, oh, we need to fix your computer and take it. And people don't question it if they're so relaxed and confident about it.
I just wonder what the doctor is thinking. Who the hell is that? I have no idea.
I mean, they probably just thought it's just an observation or someone from the hospital filming the operation for, whatever reason. We're going to watch it later. Because you actually see, he's speaking to the camera and says, oh, I'm going to show you how bad the Western medical system is. And then he just turns the camera and he's walking in and they've got someone cut open. He just starts filming the whole thing.
Yeah,
does he believe in germ
it's
theory?
that operation. It's not supposed to be pretty. And I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't.
I don't know about his opinions on germ theory. It wouldn't surprise me if he was a germ theory denier as well.
There are so many things wrong with Jordan's worldview that even things we're not sure about, like what does he think about germ theory and what does he think about atomic theory? Any one of us would say, I wouldn't be surprised if he denies that. Somebody asked us if Jordan was a flat earther, and Marty pointed out that, no, I don't think he's a flat earther, but at the same time, it wouldn't surprise any of us if he did go that route.
He could go that route because he thinks his followers might actually believe that and give him more views. I wouldn't be surprised if some of his views were just put on to kind of please his fan base.
Yep, like I said, I actually found the video here, and this is the actual description he gives. I infiltrated a hospital to see what modern society knows about the healing arts. I learned many things. Allow me to share them with you. How did I get into the hospital, you ask? Well, I picked up skills from playing Metal Gear Solid and used them in real life, obviously. And the thing is, it's hard to know if he's joking or not. And then, after that, there's...
I got a really weird image of just Jordan just walking around the hospital corridors in a cardboard box.
But the thing is, he's put an edit and he says, "Lol, people in the comments are such assholes. I went in as part of a film team. I was prepped and met all of the doctors beforehand and they all loved me. Calm down, people. Do you really think doctors would be so chill about some dude walking in and filming?"
So he basically lied about his entire premise anyway. So he didn't infiltrate anything at all. He literally he arranged it all in advance. He walked in there and everything was set up from the start to finish.
And the thing is, the video was put up on December 2011 and he put in that update in 2015, which kind of, why would you just leave it up there and not tell everyone this beforehand? And the video has nearly 5,000 dislikes to 400 likes, so there is some hope there.
It's surprising that he hasn't tried to remove the video.
Yeah, like I said, it's kind of, as Marty said, he says, everyone else seems to think that Jordan's quite a nice guy, but as Marty says, I just get a really bad vibe from him sometimes in the interactions we've had.
I like how he said bad vibe. Like vibes exist.
Bad vibes.
Anyone else got anything about Jordan there?
The two sides of him that we just now briefly touched on, his touchy-feely, I'm a nice person who's just full of love for everybody, versus the person he is in real life. I think that's pretty common among people who embrace New Age beliefs. Another side to New Age systems of belief that nobody touches on very much, or it's rarely brought up, and maybe Cal can talk about this and expound on it a little bit, the strain of racism in New Age beliefs.
Oh yeah, well it is. It's kind of very hard to define, but it definitely is there. I have noticed it from time. It just kind of creep up in a weird way, and I hate to use the phrase, but there is a good deal of cultural appropriation in it as well. And yeah, I don't know. It's just something I pick up on sometimes. I don't know how to expand it, but I do get this undercurrent of there's a slight undercurrent of racism within the movement. I don't know if anyone else has noticed it.
I've come across in some of my research, racism in New Age belief was a little bit more prevalent in the past, like in the 1940s and 1930s, thereabouts. There were some Nazi groups and also some, not Nazis, but Nazi sympathizer groups who were influenced by some spiritualistic writings of Madame Blavatsky, for example. So some of that might have carried through to the modern day, but not as much as, it's not as prevalent today as it was earlier in the 20th century.
And plus, it's hard to get around the fact that most New Agers tend to be very affluent white people. You can't ignore that. They're a huge demographic that's devour this stuff.
Most of the time when I think of New Age outside of the context of people like Deepak Chopra and Jordan, etc., I always think of those kind of corner shops with tacky ornaments and things that have been made out of tacky crap that people just pick up and they pay X amount for, and plastic pyramids with gold flakes in them and all that kind of stuff. Just junk. It's like a junk movement where people just create this crap and they sell it to people and pretend it has powers. That's kind of what I think of New Age these days.
And don't forget the tie-dye t-shirts. That's an absolute must for them.
Yeah, years ago I dated somebody who turned out to be somebody who was very much into this kind of stuff. And speaking of junk you find in stores, she filled her house with crystals and gems and rubies and dream catchers and all sorts of stuff like this to ward off demons, which she literally believed in, making her probably a little bit different than other New Agers, or most of them, in that she believed in literal demons.
Nice. Did she have a Himalayan crystal salt lampshade or anything like that?
She probably did.
Oh, is that the GMO and chemical-free salt as well?
Yeah, it's the one that's got all those extra minerals and all that kind of stuff in it, because it's unrefined, which makes it better for you. It's just been dug out the side of a cliff and put in a box for you.
There's extra chemicals in your chemical-free salt.
Yep. It's been bleached. It's been made white, and therefore it's bad because white is bad.
And that's the other thing about all this New Age tack and trinkets again, is how expensive they are. It is really expensive stuff. And that kind of ties into me saying, why are so many affluent white people into all of this? I mean, I think there can be some truth to, like, maybe if you are a bit wealthier, you can feel like you have a little bit of an empty life, and this can sort of plug the gap for you in a way. Which kind of
just look at how expensive Deepak Chopra's seminars and lectures and conferences are. On the low end, they're thousands and thousands of dollars. On the high end, he charges as much as tens of thousands of dollars to attend his lectures.
The thing is, I can see how it can genuinely maybe help some folk in the short term, like people who genuinely are feeling a little bit down, and they hear these positive messages, which is at the core of it, and I can see there might be some tiny benefit to that, but that's about all I can see in the New Age movement.
Yeah, but I mean, I suppose if you've got like 5 Ferraris and 7 houses and you've visited every single place on Earth, you might as well align your chakras. You've done everything real, so you might as well have some make-believe in your life, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that's definitely another point. I kind of do see it as an almost kind of a sort of secular religion in a way. But a lot of this is the kind of weird thing, the religious beliefs of the New Age, they're very nebulous at the best of time, and they all have it's the one thing you can never pin them down on. Like I say, I think some of them, they're accepting of all religions, but some are kind of trying to, or some say every religion's wrong and it's ourselves. It's the one thing I think they do disagree on.
One thing I have noticed is a lot of New Agers will accept that there is a God. They'll think, well, there is a God, but I don't believe in religion because religion is man-made. And when you then try and broach the subject of most of the gods having evidence that they're man-made, in fact, all of them, that they've been created by people rather than vice versa, they kind of shy away from it. They go, well, there's all these unanswered questions and therefore God are the gaps. But yeah, they never really put their finger on which particular God it is that they believe in.
In my experience, most of them believe that they are God and everybody is a God and the universe is God being realized through all of us. Human consciousness created the universe and therefore the universe is God or a manifestation of God and we are God. That's the main strain of thought I see going through the New Age movement with regard to whether God exists or not.
You just touched on a Russell Brand thing. Do you know when Russell Brand talks about God, he talks about God is the universe looking at itself through our eyes.
Oh, we could do a whole show on Russell Brand.
Did you guys see the really weird, bizarre interview that Russell Brand did with Alex Jones? It was one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen because they seem to be coming from completely opposite worldviews, even though equally wrong worldviews, but also two different kind of ways of looking at the world. And when they come together and talk, it's one of the most strangest things I've seen.
I think probably the reason they got on was just because they're both anti-mainstream, whatever that means. I think that's all. Alex Jones just likes anyone who is anti-mainstream in any way.
Are we going to be talking about David Icke today, by the way?
No, because I don't think it really fits into New Age. We could probably do a show on kind of the likes of David Icke and Alex Jones. That's definitely an idea for the future. I was going to bring us on to the last guru that I identified in the lead up to this show, and that's Teal Swan. So I'm just going to ask you, are you aware of this woman?
You guys sent me a link earlier on this week, but I haven't got around to watching it yet, I'm afraid.
Like I said, this is one seriously strange individual to watch. Have you watched any of her videos, Nathan, or watched any of her material at all?
No, I haven't heard of Teal Swan until you brought her up just a few days ago, I think.
Yeah, you watch her videos and there is just something not right about this person. I know it sounds very New Agey just to say that you get a bad feeling, but this woman is just... I cannot explain it. Joel, just to bring up, I think she's friendly with Jordan because I think Jordan does some animations for her. And she's quite an attractive woman, but when she speaks, she has this dead-eyed, emotionless look to her, and her delivery as well. It's so devoid of any compassion or any kind of feeling in her. And like I say, a lot of people are commenting there's just something completely unnerving about how this woman speaks. And she's got a lot of followers now.
Yeah, I'm on website now, and it looks like she's got quite a strong marketing thing going with Frequency clothing, Frequency tarot cards, tours in Glastonbury, all kinds of stuff. It looks like a catalog, her website.
Yeah, but then you actually look at pictures of her, and do you see what I mean about there's some kind of cold, dead, emotionless thing look to her?
Yeah, I can kind of see that.
You guys haven't seen it, but I do recommend, if you want to see a good videos about, I think it's... Well, he's not able to come here tonight, but Robert W. Lester on YouTube, go and watch his videos about, and is it Pure Carbon as well? I think he's done some videos on Teal Swan. I think one of you is friends with Pure Carbon, I remember. But do you also get that really bizarre vibe from her? There's just something not actually human about the woman. But
It's kind of like how when people watch Tommy Wiseau and say there's something not quite right about him, and then it turns out that Tommy Wiseau himself claims to be a vampire.
yeah, something like that. Just in her delivery, she's just so emotionless and devoid of any kind of humanity. Like I said, it's just, I think, well, one of my friends is watching, he just said, I hate to say this, but I think there's a freezer full of bodies just off camera with this woman.
Yeah, I can see what you mean.
Yeah, are you looking at the pictures right now?
Yeah.
I'm just having a look at some of the titles of the videos on a YouTube channel, which are quite interesting, like using orgasm to change a belief. The fuck's that about?
That puts a new turn to the phrase, a new meaning to the phrase missionary position.
Ba-bum.
Ah.
Well, using orgasm to change somebody's mind about something, that's the first thing that pops into my head.
Well, if that's the case, that's never been used before.
So I think probably just I'll let you guys. Is there any other New Age gurus that you're aware of that are worth a mention? That's the kind of 4 big ones that I identified this week.
One of my favorites is Fred Allen Wolf, because he's on What the Bleep Do We Know, and he's also on The Secret documentary that's based on The Secret book. You watch his mannerisms and the way he presents himself, and he's like the textbook next to the word in the dictionary type figure of the mad scientist. He just shoots off and speaks nonsense in such an enthusiastic and excited way, and his mannerisms are pretty entertaining to watch. He's one of these people who say that we create our own reality through the mere act of thinking and observing the things around us.
Oh yeah, I just looked him up. He's the guy behind the Dr. Quantum stuff that was in What the Bleep Do We Know.
There's one guy who I've been linked to many times by flat earthers who seems to have the same kind of spiel in terms of the way he talks and the way he tries to bamboozle people with kind of babble. And he's called on YouTube Theoria Apophasis.
Never heard of him.
Theoria Professus?
Yeah. Theoria Apophasis with a Apophasis, and a word that he likes to use in the videos that the flat earthers laud him for is incommensurable. When he's talking about magnets, apparently he's a magnet expert, so claim the flat earthers, and he's a proponent of ether physics and various other bits and pieces.
Oh no, a proponent of ether.
You know how a lot of New Agers and conspiracy theorists will always point to Nikola Tesla as being this guy who used ether in his experiments and this, that, and the other, and he had an idea about free energy, etc., etc. So the videos that I've been pointed to by flat earthers and other conspiracy theorists that this Theoria Apophasis has done relate quite often to either magnets or free energy devices or ether and that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's that kind of Tesla-esque type of woo.
Yeah, that's something that's pretty fascinating to me, is this cult of personality that surrounds Nikola Tesla. It's something I haven't really been able to put my finger on. In some ways, he was a good scientist, but he really lost his way on a lot of the things that he pursued, and the New Age movement just adores him.
Oh yeah, because, well, there's also how he ended his life, which just kind of feeds into the whole narrative that they love, because he died penniless and alone, and it's not for the reasons that they want to believe. There was the establishment put him out of business, is because he was a bit of a loon with his money and all that. He was a bit nutty. I mean, like I say, I'm doing an engineering course right now, and we talk about him quite a bit. He revolutionized the world with some things, but 90% of his stuff was just absolutely insane.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's probably just as we're coming out, I think we've got to talk about another cornerstone of the New Age movement, and that's What the Bleep Do We Know. I know, Kitch, we've watched that film, so I'll just kind of get our newbies here, your kind of opinions if you've seen the movie and what you think of it.
It didn't really say much. It's like anything New Age. It doesn't really say much. And it seems to be 2 movies mashed in one, didn't it?
Yeah, there's a cartoon movie and there's a live action movie about a woman who's upset with her life, and things are going on at the subatomic or submicroscopic sort of level, which is the portions where they try to teach you a message. And then the other part of it is just the story part of it, which is the live action.
It's been a while since I've seen it, but wasn't there something bizarre or dangerous suggested about the ending? Was there meds?
Yeah, I think the main character, she's on meds for something, and she throws him away at the end, and because she's become enlightened now. I can't remember it, 'cause it's been so long since I've watched it. But there's also two versions of it. There's the version that went to the theatres, and then there's the DVD version, which is kind of twice the length, but it's just because it's padded out with more interviews with people.
Yeah, and then you get the extended edition, which is about 6 hours long because they throw in all the uncut interviews.
Yeah, because I think they got quite a lot of criticism for. There was one of the actual scientists in it who was really very annoyed with how they used his footage.
Yeah, we should probably mention the 35,000-year-old being that Jay-Z Knight channels in the movie called Ramtha. That is the highlight of the movie. And that's why I mentioned Ramtha in my tongue-in-cheek introduction to this show. Jay-Z Knight is in this movie. She's not talking directly to the camera. She's channeling this being who's kind of her spiritual guide. He's a 35,000-year-old being. That part alone is the reason a lot of people went to see that movie. That was its main selling point. That and the bit about the water having memory.
Oh yeah.
God, homeopathy, for fuck's sake.
That's Jen, you're a bit of a nerd like me. The person who's involved in that scene is none other than the guy who played Quark on DS9.
Brilliant, awesome. Oh, I mean, we can't go through this kind of side of the topic without talking about Nancy Lieder either, can we? The inventor of Nibiru Cataclysm and founder of Zeta Talk, who believes she's been contacted by Zeta Reticuli star system extraterrestrials through fucking something or other.
Magnets.
I don't even know. Have you seen her recent stuff, Nancy Lieder? She's still going. She's been going since 1995, and she's got so many followers now who believe that Nibiru is just around the corner and this, that, and the other.
No, I haven't seen that at all. I haven't. That's the first I heard of her when you just mentioned it until right now.
Well, you've heard of Nibiru. I mean, she's the one who started it. She's the one who she rehashed old ideas about the planet X, which has been going around for ages. It's a new age myth that's been pulled out of subjective readings of old text, saying that there's a planet in the solar system that comes around every so and so many thousands of years and destroys life on the planet, and it's due again. And they think it's called Nibiru, but they're not quite sure whether it's a planet or whether it's a planetary system, and whether there's moons and this, that, and the other.
Did that originate from when they couldn't explain the orbit of Venus? I can't remember. It was Venus or Mercury that they couldn't explain. The orbit wasn't aligning with Newtonian physics.
It comes from way before that. I mean, they're looking back to older texts that describe a planetary body and this kind of stuff. Well, that's what they claim anyway. But these so-called older texts are from somebody who channeled somebody, I think it was at the beginning of the 20th century, so-called channeled some ancient spirit or ancient alien at that particular point. And then that was kind of picked up by Nancy Lieder later on in 1995 when she put it on her Zeta Talk website. But yeah, there's a few of these different New Age myths about planetary bodies, and have a look at her stuff. It's complete batshit.
That's the kind of stuff where you'll find the most entertaining aspects of the New Age belief system. There's the boring, vague, meaningless stuff about personal happiness and personal fulfillment and self-help and all that, which I find incredibly boring. But then there's stuff like Nibiru and flat earth stuff and ancient aliens, and that's where I find the most entertainment in the movement.
Oh, definitely. Have you ever heard of Zecharia Sitchin?
No, never heard.
Can't say I have.
Zecharia Sitchin is basically one of the main proponents and where a lot of the new ancient aliens people get their bullshit from, should we say nicely. So people like, who's the guy who keeps getting quoted with the famous meme, the guy with the crazy hair? I've forgotten his name. Have you ever seen a meme where it just says aliens in it and it's got a guy?
I don't know the name of the guy, but I know the meme you're on about.
I've forgotten his name again, but he's from Ancient Aliens, and that is taken from Ancient Aliens, the famous now History Channel so-called documentary which claims all these ridiculous things. But Zecharia Sitchin is one of the main people from whom everyone bases their ideas as far as that's concerned, including Eric von Daniken and David Childress, the guy who's very famous for going some kind of this, that, and the other. And it's Zecharia Sitchin's interpretations of old mythologies, such as I think it's Babylonian and Sumerian and maybe a few others, maybe Egyptian as well. And that's where they get it all from, is the ancient astronaut theory. And it was, I think Zecharia Sitchin might even be a fiction writer. I think it was. So it's the same kind of basis as Scientology. It starts off with someone writing some bullshit and it kind of grows into some monumental sort of mythology, conspiracy theory thing from there.
I was hoping, Julia, just to bring back, have you seen What the Bleep?
Yeah, I actually got the DVD as a present from my mom because it sounded sciencey and I liked science.
Oh dear.
Well, at the time, I was not so much as critical as I would be now. So it was years ago, and I watched it, and I actually didn't pick up on a lot of the woo stuff when I listened to the podcast you guys did about it. Didn't pick up on a lot of that when I watched it years and years ago. So I'm thinking I should watch it again and look at it with what I know now.
Yeah, it's just boring, the film. Was that your experience the first time you watched it?
Well, I don't know. It was just weird. That's it, really. And it touched on a lot of things. At the time, I hadn't heard of the water memory thing yet. I hadn't heard of the quantum woo stuff yet. So it was all new to me at the time. And now I would be able to see that, I think. So I would look at it differently now than I did back then.
That's an interesting topic to segue to, actually, talking about what people were convinced by in the past, which they might be more skeptical about now. Is there anything that anyone here was convinced by previously, which they had to learn their way out of?
There's a few things, but when you say that right now, Jen, I think we could save that for another show. That would be a good discussion, all the different things, because for me it was the 9/11 thing. I wasn't convinced by it, but when I first saw Loose Change, I was like saying, this is quite interesting. And then I got some engineering textbooks and it just went away just as quick. That was probably the nearest I've come to being a real true believer in anything like that. But yeah, that'll be a good show in the future, just to see like things we did used to believe and kind of what actually changed our minds on it.
Sounds interesting though. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, definitely. That's one for the future. And I think, can we start wrapping up now?
Yeah, I think we've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, and just, unless anyone's got any final thoughts on New Agers.
We're just channeling our quantum spirits into the podcast, and psychically we are communicating our thoughts with our audience.
But I just want to finish. I'm
not bad for my first try.
Yeah. I want to get in before we end the worst claim that Jordan made, and I don't know how I forgot this. And Jenn, I know she's a bit of a gearhead like I am now, and that was when he claimed that the moon vibrated for longer because it was hydraulically damped.
Oh, for fuck's
Wait,
sake.
what?
Yeah.
I've not heard that one.
It was like some experiments they did where they detonated some TNT on the surface of the moon and it vibrated for a while, and Jordan said it vibrated so long because it was hydraulically damped.
That's the hollow planet theory as well, this idea that the Earth and the Moon are hollow, which is why they ring like a bell.
Yes, but what made that even better was, like, I'm at college right now, and the very same week that video came out, I was actually studying dampening systems in college, which made it even more infuriating.
For the sake of all of our entertainment needs, we're all very fortunate that Jordan's not in the habit, or he doesn't seem to be at least, of deleting the videos that he should be embarrassed by.
Yep. Probably just to finish off, just as always, we'll just recommend some sources that you want to know about New Age. And like we said, Chocolate Hat, Pure Carbon, Martimer, and Robert W. Lester, probably they're the best at this kind of stuff. I'm saying they all make really good videos that are worth watching.
And I'd like to recommend, in addition to those, recommend some books that are really good. Victor Stanger wrote pretty extensively on quantum mysticism and how it brushes up against science. He passed away a couple years ago. He's been described by his colleagues as the anti-Chopra because he's written very extensively about it. One book, The Unconscious Quantum, that's one of his older books from 95, I think. But he wrote a more recent one not too long ago. I want to say 2009 or so. called Quantum Gods. That's kind of an update to his earlier book called The Unconscious Quantum. So I would recommend both of those books as well.
And just a quick note, if you go through back history, you'll find an interview we did with Vic Stinger a few years ago, and we were all very sad to see him go.
I'd like to recommend DMT and cannabis rituals. When I say recommend, I mean don't ever fucking do DMT unless you're under severe supervision and you understand that what you're seeing is just your mind fucking playing with you. Someone who I would like to actually recommend is Suzanne Blackmore, who's done a lot of work. She's a very famous skeptic in the UK, and she's done a lot of work on drugs. And one thing that goes along with New Age movements quite often, this idea that drugs are channeling mediums, channeling devices that you can use to actually gain extra knowledge about your environment or get in contact with spirits, etc. So something Suzanne Blackmore has done is taken a lot of drugs, and she's quite eccentric. And she started off as a believer in various different things. And she has then gone through the process of understanding the genuine psychology behind various different New Age movements and also drugs, etc., by experiencing them all. So go and have a look at her work.
Yeah, I like her work as well. Back in the 70s, I think she was a pretty prominent parapsychologist before she reformed her outlook and did a lot of hard-hitting criticism on her own work, essentially.
Yeah, she's a very self-reflective person. It's fantastic. I got to see her at QED this year. And it was great seeing her on a panel with other people like Haley and various others on there talking about, that was about parapsychology and about ghosts, etc., ghost hunting, which was quite fun. Different topic.
Yeah, her work on near-death experiences is pretty fantastic. That's the biggest name she's made for herself, is in that topic.
Oh, and one last resource to check out is a debate Deepak Chopra did against Sam Harris and Michael Shermer a few years ago. I would really recommend watching that. Because normally I don't recommend debates because, to be frank, a lot of them are quite dull to watch, but this one is definitely worth a watch. There's some other New Age guru on, I don't know, I can't remember the woman's name, but definitely watch this because, Deepak Chopra just loses his patience a few times and it's quite hilarious to watch. Okay, I think we can wrap up proper there, Nathan. And probably, Nathan, you can, I'll let you take over all this. I'm still kind of in host mode a lot of the time, sorry.
Yeah, well, I don't have an outro prepared. I just had an intro prepared because by now you all know that we're just broadcasting negative energy and we're all very negative people, or so the New Age believers would tell us if they made it this far, which I doubt any would. That's our show for November 13th, 2016, and we plan on recording another show a week from now, which means these shows, if we successfully stay on the schedules we've got so far, should be coming out, every 2 weeks? Does that sound right, Cal?
Yeah, that's what her old schedule was, so we're going to try and stick to that.
And our next show is going to be on cancer cures and cannabis and about the whole movement that claims that cannabis is a panacea or cure-all. We will have the YouTube user Microbloganism on with us to talk about that. So look forward to that in the near future. And one thing we should do that we didn't do in our last reboot episode was kind of tell people where we can find ourselves. So we should go around and you guys share your YouTube channels.
Yep. Well, you can find me mostly on Twitter. It's @ZuluCal. That's nice and easy to find. And Jen?
I'm on YouTube as Generalized and on Twitter as @PhotoGenbo. Both of them are cancer, but come and have a look.
Julia?
You can find me under the username Genetic Julia, both on YouTube and Twitter.
And Kitch?
Yep, you can find me at Twitter. Handle is @bio_inspiration. Or just look for Michael Kitching.
For myself, I'm on the Trolling with Logic website where I just have a blog. I'm still working on getting a YouTube channel possibly up within a few months. But for now, I just have my blog that some of you may have seen.
Okay, yeah. And I think that's it from everyone. And just wish everyone a good week, and we'll see you all very soon. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
See ya.
Sending positive
Bye-bye.
vibrations.
Thank you.